I'd love to welcome Diaz to Inspiring Lives with Dr. Shellie. Welcome.
Thank you, Shellie. I'm very honored to be here.
Wonderful to have you here. Could you please describe your childhood to me, Dawn?
So, I was a child growing up partly in New York City and partly in Puerto Rico. And I lived with my mom and my stepfather and my 3 little brothers. And my stepfather was an alcoholic, and he was very abusive to my mom, physically, verbally, emotionally, financially, in every way, to the point where it was like brutally physically abusive. My mom sustained black eyes, broken noses, missing teeth, the whole, like, that is like the extreme of abuse. And so, you know, I was a child witnessing that, and I was also verbally and emotionally and actually sexually abused as well.
Oh. So all this stuff was going on in your life, and a lot of people that would carry through into their adult life. Did it carry through to your adult life? Is this something, you know, a burden that you carry with you everywhere you go?
Absolutely, absolutely, Shellie. So now that I'm an adult and I've studied, I really understand that I had post-traumatic stress disorder from that experience, and so it carried over. And you know, the part that is very ironic is that my mom, after about 13 years of living in that situation, she finally had the courage to leave when she found out that I was being sexually abused. Like, that was the turning point for her. And so 6 months later, she died in a car accident. And so she had 6 months of freedom to actually live through and, you know, try to, like, fulfill all of her dreams. And so through, I'm sorry.
No, I'm getting emotional. Like, we're both mothers, so I'm like looking at you and thinking, like, she finally got away, and then she only had 6 months after the car. She had 6 months. We should say she did have 6 months of freedom.
Amazing months of
and
life.
not all women get that, but just thinking about that is so powerful.
Yeah, and so I was 14 at the time, and so then, you know, I never processed the grief. And so, you know, nowadays, if that would happen to a child, there would be all this counseling and all this support. But, you know, this happened in the early 80s, and, you know, kids weren't talked to, you know. People didn't talk to kids. So I basically just never grieved and just went through my entire teenage years in a self-destructive mode.
I was an assistant principal at a school for kids with emotional behavioral needs. So I saw that day in and day out with these 200 kids I was working with, just these tragedies that they carry with them.
Yeah, and then, you know, they're labeled as bad kids, but, you know, no one knows that it's just a pain and an emptiness that they have inside, that if someone actually was able to recognize and you know, try to, like, address, then they'd have so much amazing talent inside them. And that actually, people that come from those kinds of backgrounds, if they're turned around, they can be tremendously inspiring, and that's, you know, a lot of the people that you've had here.
Yes, definitely, and that's been a real blessing for the show. So I'm thinking, you know, it carries over to your adult life, and I know that you're a mother of 3 boys. You got your twins, and tell us about that. How's that affected your boys?
Well, I am so blessed to have 3 amazing young men who inspire me and support me, and you know, they are a true blessing, and I've grown up with them, basically, you know, because they're, you know, I was young when I had my kids, you know, but just to go back, just as how it affected my adulthood, I got involved in abusive relationships myself, you know, and so the problem, you know, the thing is that I saw domestic violence as physical abuse, as broken noses, as, you know, missing teeth, and that, thank God, didn't happen to me. However, it was very elusive and very insidious, that I was actually being emotionally humiliated and verbally, you know, kept down and things like that, and I didn't even know it because, you know, and that's why, like, education of domestic violence is so important.
Absolutely.
And, you know, because, you know, women, and people that I talk to, they're like, oh, well, you know, oh, that doesn't apply to me. Well, then when we actually go through a questionnaire, oh yeah, that happens to me. So it's really, you know, not wanting to label yourself as something, but actually opening your mind and seeing, like, what resources there are. And so that is actually, like, the premise and the tenet of what we do is that, yes, acknowledging what happened to you and leaving it in the past. Wow. So that actually the floodgates of creativity can really open up. And as I met a young lady yesterday, she said, what's inside you and what are you doing with it? And
That's so true.
And that's actually, like, perfect for exactly getting to the core of why you're here. And so that's what Milagros Day does. And so it's funny because really we don't spend a lot of time talking about domestic violence. It's really just what brings us together. Yeah. It's what brought us here. And then it's all about, what are we going to do with the rest of our lives, and what impact are we going to make on the world?
See, I love that, because I remember, you know, I deal with so many different charities, and I read about them, but the thing that set yours apart, Milagros Day Worldwide, and what is that website, so we all know?
It's milagrosday.org. Very simple.
Excellent. Well, hopefully people will go there, because what I saw there and what I saw through you as the leader of this organization is that you don't just approach it as, okay, you're a victim. You approach it as, you're a survivor. Now, look at all the possibility that's out there in the world. It's that whole power of now, like you were talking about. You're in this moment. What in the world are you going to do with that?
Yes.
And I think that's a very different approach than just putting a Band-Aid on an issue.
Absolutely.
And I mean, with domestic violence, there's a lot of Band-Aids. There's a lot of crutches and things that are very physical, but you really have to go deep inside. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I don't want to take anything away from the amazing crisis intervention programs and shelters and all of the things that exist now. Yes. Because without that, the women that come to us would not even be able to even, you know, entertain this idea.
Absolutely.
You know? So definitely, you know, that is absolutely necessary. Yes. However, the amazing, wonderful thing about Milagros Day is that it takes the women to the next level.
I love it.
You know,
I love it.
Yes.
And you spoke about those, like, stopgap measure places that help a woman in trauma. And here in Pittsburgh, you know, you came from New York, but we're in Pittsburgh here, and that's the Center for Victims of Violent Crime. Yes. So, and they're doing a fantastic job here. So it's good that you brought that up. Yes. Absolutely. So my audience is probably going to look at this beautiful woman and think, oh, she must be, like, on the runways with Olga or something like that. But can you tell us what you really do for a living?
I am a paramedic captain in the New York City Fire Department.
That's awesome. Fantastic.
Yes, and, you know, it's been a wonderful career. I've been doing it for 22 years. I've been through the ranks. I was an EMT on the ambulance. I was a paramedic. I was a lieutenant for over 10 years. I operated during 9/11 for many, many months.
Oh my gosh, and you were in New York City.
Yes.
What was that like, Dawn?
You know, believe it or not, it was obviously it was a huge turning point in my life, and it actually made me never be afraid of death. I was not at the site when it happened, but I spent many, many months there afterwards in the recovery process, and you know, it was.
I didn't know this, and you've looked these horrific things in the eyes, and you're sitting there smiling, pretty as can be, and helping other women get through, get over, and get on, and I love it.
Yeah, well, what I have to say about that is really, really important, and it's the way that I actually was able to start loving myself and to start actually feeling like I had something to contribute to the world was really, it's identifying and finding your purpose and living your purpose.
Absolutely.
You know? And so, you know, and then actually contributing, right? Yes. So one of the points that we use in our program, it's a 3-part module. It's recreation, re-education, and responsibility. And so the responsibility piece is really where we get women to actually take their talents and use them to impact other people's lives, and tangibly. So in order to complete the Transformation Academy, they have to have impacted 5 people's lives in a project that they created from their own imagination.
I love it.
Yes, and the thing is, you can only really truly know and believe your own value when you see the impact that you're having on someone else's life.
So you're talking about a legacy. Can you just
Absolutely.
briefly tell us about Legacy Camps?
Thank you so much
You're
for bringing
welcome.
that up. Yes, the Legacy Camp is our next event that's happening at the end of this month, and what we do is it's a 3-day experiential workshop where we, have women just leave their past there,
love it.
through some like really intense workshops, healing circles, burning things, we're flying across. We actually have our main exercise is the Flight of Freedom. And,
what is that?
And it's a zip line course.
Oh, I did that in Costa Rica. I love zip lining. That's awesome.
And
that's fantastic.
Yes.
Well, I'm just blown away by your story and about the impact you're making on women who have been through domestic violence, but it's not holding them back any longer because of you and Milagros Day Worldwide and tapping into themselves.